So, ladies and gentlemen, we are preparing for this 2013 AUDL Championship weekend. I'm Meagles.
And I'm Chuck Town.
And we are fortunately joined by Charlie Eisenhood, who's going to give us a little bit of insight into the New York Empire's roster, play, and what we can expect from them this weekend. Charlie, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Charlie, first and foremost, we kind of wanted to just chat with you and find out what you think the New York Empire has to do to beat the undefeated Toronto Rush this Saturday.
Well, it's going to take not a perfect effort, but a very, very strong effort. I think the Rush, obviously coming in undefeated, the better team. Even the Empire at full strength just simply don't have the talent that Toronto does. So the Empire are going to need to play, they're going to execute their game plan to a T. And that means really limiting turnovers, taking advantage of the turns that the Rush give them on the defensive side of the disc, and playing extremely clean. It's hard to match up against this Rush team that is both very tall and very skilled. And frankly, New York, the players and coaches will admit that it's going to be a long shot for them. That maybe only they win 1 out of 10 matches against the Rush. But there is that chance, right? If they play a great game and their biggest players step up and make a couple plays down the stretch, they could take down the Rush.
And who do you think are going to be some of the big playmakers this weekend in their game against the Rush?
Well, I think you'll see the same folks that we've seen making plays all year for the Empire. That's Jack Marsh, St. Carnegie. All of the members of the O-line have had to step up at times. Seth Kennedy and the handling core. On the defensive side of the disc, I think Alone Brown and Mike Drost come to mind as two guys who are going to need to have big games. And frankly, the team has always thrived on their defense, and when they're playing well defensively, they tend to win. They went 7-1 at home this year and mostly blew teams out and only lost to the Rush, and it was really early in the season. So I think the Empire players are pretty excited to get another shot at the Rush because they think that although the Rush are probably the better team on paper, that with a good day and a very clean game, that they have a chance to beat them.
And speaking of good days, they had an extremely good day in their game against the Philadelphia Phoenix. What elements were working really, really well for them that day? I believe they scored 21 against the 13 that the Philadelphia Phoenix scored.
Right, and really what it came down to was great execution. They just executed a better game plan than the Phoenix. They knew that the Phoenix liked to run through just a couple of guys, Matt Esser and Dick Brandolph, and they did their best to limit those guys and their ability to make plays. And the Philly was looking to take shots. New York knew that, and they got some Ds in the end zone, and they were simply better with the disc after the turnover. It was a little bit windy, and the Empire handlers were more steady, and they just ground out a win. I mean, they took an early lead and extended it throughout the game, and they never had a mental letdown that they've had in the past, where they've tended to let teams back into the game in the third and fourth quarter. This didn't happen this time. They scored the first 3 points in the fourth quarter and shut down any opportunity for the Phoenix to come back. And, of course, against the Rush, it won't be so easy, but that's the kind of mental focus they'll need to bring if they want to have a chance against Toronto.
So how good is Drost on D? I know he's one of the guys they go to create turns, but he's going to be guarding probably either Lindquist or Lloyd, who I think a lot of people would consider just absolutely top-level cutters. Is he good enough to run with those guys?
I mean, I think that it's hard to say anybody's good enough to run with those guys. All you can really do with players like that is limit them. Drost, and the thing about the Empire is that they really do play team defense. Even when they're running man defense, there's a lot of switching, there's a lot of communication on the field, and when they're playing their best D, they're getting Ds because they're working together as a team rather than trying to rely on individual plays. Drost is a very good defender, and he's going to challenge those guys to make plays. But frankly, if they try to rely on him just to get layout Ds or sky blocks in the end zone, they're not going to be successful. It's going to come down to that team strategy, and the Empire is known for being one of the teams that really likes to try a lot of different things on D. They have a junk D, They have a various zone looks. They'll run hard man as well, and they have a lot of different players that they cycle into that D-line to keep the legs fresh. The question is, can they execute against a team like Toronto that has such talent on that O-line?
Yeah, it's a good question. You mentioned some of their different defensive looks. Do you think would a windy, maybe inclement weather situation, would that favor New York? Are they looking to play a game where it's going to be harder to complete passes and easier to throw junk looks?
That's a great question. I think New York excelled in the wind in Wildwood this past weekend against Philadelphia. It wasn't super windy, but it was swirling because of the ocean air. And they played well in the wind. I think that they would prefer a game where it's more difficult for the offense to score, even if that means that they give up some breaks as well. I mean, the fact is that their defense is what takes them to the championship game. I mean, if it's not going to be the O-line that gets them there. They're going to get broken, and they know that, and they're probably going to game plan knowing that. So you're probably going to see a lot of players playing both ways, guys like Hussein Carnegie, and Billy Katz and some other guys who played both O and D this season. So whether or not the wind is good or bad for them, I think at the end of the day, the Rush probably have more talented throwers down the roster. So maybe they don't want a lot of wind, but I think that they would prefer that to total stillness, where it's really easy for hammers and scoopers and lots of different creative throws to be put on the money, because those are the throws that are going to be difficult for even good team defense to stop.
Right, makes sense. So one thing I wanted to ask you, I mean, you're very familiar with New York Ultimate, and a lot of these guys on the New York Empire are kind of up-and-coming players. A lot of them don't play open, and they're not as well known. Jack Marsh is obviously captain of Pony and a top talent. But where do a lot of these other guys come from? Are they, are they playing in the open division? Are they playing in college? Where are they playing?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a typical New York team in some ways. It's a lot of guys from a lot of different places coming together. It's been one of the challenges for the Empire this year to sort of coalesce, because they had players from all over the place. Many of them played college in the area. There are a couple players still in college, and a lot of them play on various teams around the city. A lot of mixed players, some open division players on teams lower levels than Pony. And I think it's deceptive to look at their roster and say, well, I only recognize one or two names on this roster. These guys must not be that good, because they proved all season that they were easily the second best team in the East. And the fact of the matter is, Toronto has the advantage of having a lot of their guys having played together for a long time on GOAT in the USA Ultimate Series. And those guys are really good, and they have a lot of chemistry together, and that's a big advantage for them. But New York has managed to build that up over time, and I think we're going to see a closer game than people expect, because the last time New York went to Toronto, they weren't playing with full squad. They had a lot of guys missing, as many teams have on road trips this season. And so with both teams at full strength, it's going to be a good game.
We tend to agree. Well, Charlie, we want to thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate your insight.
Thanks for having me, guys.
No problem. All right, well, there you have it. That's the inside on the New York Empire. Again, I'm Meagles.
And I'm Chucktown.
We're very excited for the championship weekend this weekend. We're going. Join us.